Think about everything your parents taught you. How to ride a bike, how to tie your shoes, how to behave at the dinner table, how to say please and thank you, maybe how to drive, maybe how to cook. Now think about what they taught you about money. For most people, that pause is very telling, not because their parents didn't care, not because they were bad parents, but because there's a near universal pattern across families of every background, every culture, every income level. Money was the subject nobody ever really taught. Maybe there were fragments: save your allowance, don't spend what you don't have, money doesn't grow on trees. But fragments aren't education, warnings aren't wisdom, and a child who grows up without a real understanding of money doesn't stay a child. They become an adult, earning, spending, borrowing, struggling, using a map that was never drawn for them. This video is about what that missing education costs you and what it actually looks like to learn it, even now, even late. In 2022, a global financial literacy survey tested adults across 144 countries on basic money concepts: compound interest, inflation, diversification, risk. Only 1 in 3 adults passed. Not 1 in 3 from low-income countries, not 1 in 3 from places with poor school systems. 1 in 3 adults globally, including in the wealthiest nations on earth. This is not an intelligence problem. These were working adults, people who hold jobs, pay taxes, raise families, who had never been taught the basic rules of the financial system they were living inside. And here's the part that should make you pause. Most of them didn't know they didn't know. They made financial decisions every day, confident decisions sometimes, with incomplete information they weren't even aware was missing. Psychologists call this the Dunning-Kruger effect in reverse, not overestimating what you know, but not realizing the full size of what you don't. So where was this education supposed to come from? Schools, in most countries, teach almost nothing about personal finance. A brief unit on percentages, maybe a worksheet on balancing a checkbook that nobody uses anymore. That's it. Which means the job fell to parents. And parents can only teach what they themselves were taught. If your parents grew up in homes where money was scarce and stressful, they passed on the emotions of money without the knowledge. If they grew up in homes where money was taboo, where talking about it felt vulgar or private or shameful, they passed on that silence. And that silence, it turns out, is one of the most expensive inheritances a family can pass down. Her name was Sofia. She grew up in a household that, from the outside, looked comfortable. Her parents both worked, there was always food, she had her own bedroom, holidays happened. But money in Sofia's house was treated like a family secret. Nobody talked about what things cost. Nobody discussed how much her parents earned. When Sofia once asked her mother how much the rent was, she was maybe 12, her mother changed the subject within 2 sentences. The message wasn't spoken. It didn't need to be. It was everywhere in the silences. Money is private. Money is complicated. Money is for adults to worry about, not for children to understand. Sofia grew up, left home at 22, and entered adult financial life with exactly 0 preparation. She didn't know how credit cards worked, really worked, including the compounding interest that would follow her for years. She didn't know what a credit score was until a landlord rejected her application because hers was too low. She didn't know what an emergency fund was. She had never heard the term net worth. She wasn't careless. She wasn't irresponsible. She was simply operating without a manual in a system that assumed she had one. Her first credit card arrived when she was 23. The bank mailed it to her unsolicited. She used it for groceries, for a new laptop, for a weekend trip she told herself she deserved. The minimum payment was low enough that it didn't feel alarming. She paid the minimum every month. What nobody had told Sofia was that paying the minimum on a credit card is almost the same as not paying at all. The interest accrues faster than the principal decreases. You can pay faithfully every single month and end the year owing more than you started.
She found this out 3 years later when she finally sat down to add up what she owed. The number was $11,400. She had originally spent maybe $6,000. She wasn't angry at the bank. She was angry at herself. But here's what I want you to notice. Sofia was not stupid. She had a university degree, she worked hard, she was, by any social measure, a functioning, capable adult. She had simply never been given the knowledge that would have prevented this, not once, not from her parents, not from her school, not from anyone. And when the consequences arrived, as they always do, she carried the shame alone, as though the gap was her fault and not the silence that created it. Here's the lesson Sofia's parents never taught her, and here's the lesson most of our parents never taught us.
Money is a system, and like any system, it has rules. Those rules are not secret, they are not complicated, but they are almost never explained. The first rule is time. Money, placed in the right place, left alone, grows by itself. This is compound interest working for you instead of against you. $1 saved at 25 is worth roughly 8 times more at 65 than $1 saved at 45. Time is the one financial resource that cannot be replaced. The second rule is cost. Every financial product, credit cards, loans, insurance, investment accounts, has a cost structure. Most people use these products without ever reading the cost structure. That gap between the face price and the true cost is where enormous amounts of wealth quietly disappear. The third rule is behavior. This is the one the textbooks leave out. Your financial outcomes are not determined primarily by your knowledge of finance. They are determined by what you do when you're anxious, tired, bored, celebrating, or afraid. Behavior under pressure is the real curriculum, and almost no one teaches it. Sofia eventually learned all three, not in a classroom, not from a parent, from her own mistakes, assembled slowly into understanding over her late 20s. But here's what she said when she looked back. The hardest part wasn't the debt. The hardest part was the shame. The feeling that she should have known, that other adults somehow knew, and she had missed something obvious. She hadn't missed anything obvious. She had missed something that was never shown to her. And that distinction between failing to learn something you were taught and not being taught something at all matters more than most people realize. Because when you believe the gap is your fault, you hide it. You're too embarrassed to ask questions. You make decisions in the dark and hope for the best. But when you understand that the gap was created by silence, not by your intelligence, something shifts. You stop being ashamed of what you don't know, and you start being curious about it instead. Curiosity is where financial education actually begins. You cannot go back and give yourself the education you didn't receive, but you can start now, and starting now is not the same as starting late. Here are the 3 things Sofia wishes someone had explained to her at 22. They are not complicated. They are just things nobody said out loud. Lesson 1. Understand what debt actually costs. Before you use any credit product, a card, a loan, a buy now, pay later service, find out the annual interest rate. Then calculate what you would actually pay if you carried the balance for 1 year. A $3,000 balance on a card charging 22% interest costs you $660 in a single year just in interest. That number, made concrete and visible, changes the decision. You don't have to avoid debt entirely, but you should always know its price before you accept it. Lesson 2. Make time work for you, not against you. Open a savings account that is separate from your everyday account, one you don't see every time you check your balance. Set up an automatic transfer, even a small one, the day after you get paid. The amount is not the point. The habit is.
You are teaching your financial system that money can accumulate, that it doesn't have to move the moment it arrives. That habit, built early and kept consistently, does more financial work than almost any investment strategy you will ever read about. Lesson 3. Make your behavior visible. For 1 month, track every purchase you make, not to judge yourself, not to restrict yourself, just to see clearly. Most people have no accurate idea of where their money actually goes. They have a general impression, which is almost always wrong. The categories that surprise people most are rarely the big expenses: rent, car, phone. They are the small, invisible, habitual ones: the daily coffee, the convenience purchases, the subscriptions that keep quietly renewing. You cannot manage what you cannot see, and once you can see it, really see it, in numbers over a full month, the decisions become obvious in a way they never were before. Sophia paid off her debt. It took 2.5 years. She does not recommend the process. But she says the thing that helped most wasn't any particular strategy. It was the moment she stopped feeling stupid for not knowing and started treating her own financial education as something she was responsible for building from wherever she was. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are someone who was never given a map and who is now finally drawing one. Next week, we explore one of the most invisible and least talked about forces in personal finance, the hidden psychological wall that keeps people trapped in the same financial patterns no matter how hard they work or how much they want to change. Subscribe so you don't miss it, and if you know someone who's carrying shame about money they were never taught, share this with them. Sometimes the most useful thing you can give someone is the words that free them from a shame that was never theirs to carry. I'll see you in the next one.